Well, hello everyone. Here to show you the weather A. You see coloring right here. As you see right here, is I went ahead and drew details about what it's like the activity I was working on here, and then of course working on a little bit more coloring right here. Is that right here is I went ahead and drew say a photo. I drew a picture. Drew a picture. I guess you could you can maybe look at it as a photo of a tornado it is, and of course that it looks the way I drew it, of course, is like I try to draw it as like what you call is like maybe an EF4 and EF5 tornado it is. And a lot of times with I used to always think about is that really that I really wanted to know about is like knowing about you don't really see too many tornadoes, of course, around here it is, but on the other hand too, that knowing about that probably thinking about some people that probably thinking about it's like right here is like a few of these clouds right here would probably be dark right here, and knowing about from whenever the day if anybody were to see a funnel cloud it is. But basically this whole part about this whole activity right here for weather A is talking about is that the things that you would need to know in case of the severe weather it was. And a lot of times that I can remember whenever I was in school, of course, that they never really asked me to do any type of research work about it's like really what do you do in case of this happens or if that happens or something like that. And what's the best ways of how to handle a situation of in case of this happens or anything like that. They talked about safety in the kitchen, but so far as the weather, of course, it could be a hurricane or a severe thunder, a typhoon or anything like that, or an earthquake or anything like that. But talk about with tornadoes right here is that you got right here is the rotation part of the tornado, and of course the debris that I went ahead and drew right here. But then knowing about that, if we were to ever ask yourself a question about that, it's like really that what we would usually do is like knowing about like with what I went ahead and drew right here is of course is a picture of me, and more likely that this would be somebody like me is like knowing about like me about with everybody else that they'll be going out and trying to get photos and pictures of the tornado whenever it was about at least 50 feet away from where you were. And then of course besides it's like besides the tornado it could be strong waves and stuff like that. But of course I'm like that I don't know if I've heard of anybody being stranded and say near a volcano eruption or anything, but really that you could probably think about is that whenever people a lot of times that see rough weather around, a lot of times that they could probably think about is like to get good footages of of the weather it is, of if it's a water spout or if it's a lightning strike or whatever. And a lot of times that they say that don't put yourselves in danger it is. And the way I think about it, I'm like that about anybody would probably think about is that you go outside, you go out and look at the rain, the lightning and stuff like that for whatever it's going on outside. And a lot of times you're probably thinking about is like to get in that position to where that you want to get some footages of it. And at the time I keep thinking that you'll see it on the Weather Channel a lot of times that some people may like to have footages or videotaping of the storm it is of due to the fact because that it's their only source of proof about maybe whatever that happened during that time it was. And a lot of times people probably think about that really that did you even think about having enough time to maybe grab a bottle of water, you grab a bottle of water, or maybe have emergency emergency supplies it is, and emergency supplies, or as they say a lot of them would probably say a weather radio, some type of radio to where that you'll be able to know if if it was clear or not. And with most people, we're probably thinking about is like that if you're around, and more likely that they may say it's clear, but then of course they may not be talking about your county, of course. But on the other hand, too, knowing about is I even hear that they wear light clothing. I guess you say yellow clothing. I guess it would be like yellow type clothing it is. And for the most part is like, but if this would be like me right here, and of course the way I drew it, when I would be standing out, you say on the deck, it's like it could be EF4, EF5 tornado. It's like I'm sure it don't happen everywhere. It don't happen every year or whatever. But let's just say in case if it does happen, is to kind of keep in mind, really to anybody, is just to know about what to do in case of something like this were to come up. Because I know with me that a lot of times it was like a rainstorm. It is 30-40 mile per hour winds. It is that would knock out the power, and a lot of times that you could probably thinking about, it's like that maybe not only would the power go out in case if there was a tornado actually on the ground, but it's like a lot of debris too. And of course it it got some examples of debris that will be coming from the tornado. It's like that any type of say if it's pieces of wood, or if it's go ahead and add a little bit, it's like, let's just say if there was any type of debris, like pieces of wood that would be coming off of the fenced area right here. As I say that if there was a yard at about right here that was about that measured at least at about 5 feet, so say 5 say for 5 feet, it's like knowing about how deep it is in the ground, but maybe at least 2 or 3 acres of land about right here, and then that knowing about you got right here is the tornado. It is, and with most people, if you've seen them before, been in them before, just knowing about that really about if this photo really matches about what you've seen in real life, it is. But a lot of people were probably thinking about it like, hey, go ahead, what's your point? But anyway, but talking about with this, like the safety car to say up tornadoes, and a lot of times that there may be some kids or whoever that it's like if they see the tornado, then they're more likely that they want to, and they say that it's not safe to stand by a window, during the time that there's a tornado. It's like on the ground it is if it's a rainstorm or any type of, say, a tornado it is. And they probably think about that stay away from windows it is. And a lot of times probably thinking about that get away, get off the porch, whatever it is. And so far as the safest places to take shelter is more likely that what they would probably say is a sturdy place. It's like that knowing about if you are somewhere within a field, and a lot of people probably thinking about is knowing about your safety. It is that let's just say if it happened to where that I would be standing out on my deck, it was, and just knowing about that with the high winds, and a lot of people would probably think about that tornadoes. It sounded like a train was coming, and a lot of times that I half the time I wonder, it's like do you even hear a whistle? Do you hear a whistle anywhere inside of what you hear? Is like do you hear a whistle at all, or you just it's like knowing about, it's like you say it sounds like a train was coming. It is. And of course that knowing about that if there was just maybe just a little bit of, or say, a rain showers it was, but say blowing rain showers between 30 and 40 mile per hour winds, you're talking about rain that would be hitting a window pretty hard to where you see some of the rain droplets, say on the glass it is. But just knowing about that, the fact about the best ways of what to do so far as knowing about of how to how to handle a situation to where if there was a tornado or something around as like knowing about the actions that you really need to take in order to be able to it's like to stay safe. And a lot of people will probably think about is like a with the tornado it is like that it causes damage, and more likely that the fact about that hey it causes damage, and I'll have to remember that I'm not going to build a house on this land anymore. If anything, next time I'm just going to remember to maybe add a few layers of concrete safe window sills or anything like that. But on the other hand too, that really if there's a right or wrong answer about the fact about if you're going to rebuild you say your house or whatever, just to know about what you think you'll be made out of. And then of course if you want the same location. And so a lot of places like Joplin, Missouri, and of course the other places you say like Kansas or anywhere where they have had tornadoes before, is just to know about that a lot of people probably think about this. Like if you want to report anything, it's like you have me with the camera and trying to get a number of shots of say of the tornado it is. And and like with anybody, it's like knowing about with me. Whenever I was in school, they never asked me to do any type of activity. I remember, I think it was one of them was about American Indians, but so far as talking about with tornadoes, is knowing about none of the teachers have really ever asked me to say demonstrate say on paper about the best ways of how to handle a situation it is. But my best ways, I would probably say, is to know is like to be aware, is like be aware of knowing about that if there's bad weather out, is to keep updated, of course, with any weather updates it is. But on the other hand too, to knowing about during the power failure it was, is like with me, if the power goes out, and I would probably say that the power lines that'll be about right here, that they'll probably be all twisted up and of course bent and flattened down to the ground it is. And just knowing about that few of them may not even be there after maybe a few seconds it is. And just knowing about that really how does a tornado form it is. And I can remember parents explained it to me, is knowing about this, like the cool air and then coming from the southeast and the warm coming from the east, the northeast it is, and then they mix together and then they form like what you call is like a say cone shape, where they begin to rotate, say rotate, and then that they begin to gain speed, and then there's there will be like what you call is like a tail, kind of like this, where it forms to where it gains speed and until it reaches the ground, and then it starts gaining speed. A lot of people are probably thinking about it's like how really that if there is no motor, no air pump motor attached to this cloud, or as you say be like you say Superman is to turn the tornado upside down or whatever. But on the other hand too, that knowing about, as we could probably think about it, is like for safety comes first it is knowing about that is something that more likely I don't think I had to write on my shirt, of course, but to keep a flashlight, of course. And a couple of times, power failure goes out, just knowing about the things that you think that you would need to have in case of, you say, maybe a cell phone, and a few other things too that you think that you would like to have handy in case that the bad weather comes. But on the other hand too, that knowing about if you're going to be standing outside and then you're getting footages of whatever that you're seeing, then more likely a lot of people will probably think about that that you would have to time yourself, at least give yourself 5 minutes to go out there and then come back to safety. If it's 5 minutes or if it's maybe 10 minutes or less, whatever it is, a lot of people would probably know that is that the thing about it is like the one thing that more likely would save a life is knowing about is to keep on note. It's like at least the way is to explain for the attention you say for weather A it is. So for weather, for excellent weather A is knowing about what my grade will more likely be, is to know is that thing about it is like to put one thing and put the smiley face, to put a smile on my face it is to know about really about how we survived. It's like those traumatic situations it was. But other than that, knowing about with me is like talking about with weather A coloring.